Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
Well, I think this is the first time I've ever done a podcast in the exact same location that wasn't a coffee shop or the library, but
yeah, interesting.
But we are here.
Also, how you know good people, though, right?
There you go. Well, we are here at Thrive Sports and Spine, which is actually, I'll say, on corner of Chinkapin Round Road and George Avenue.
Yep.
Shares a space with Maxed Out Fitness, who we did speak with a couple of months ago, and we're talking with Dr. Erik Korzen, who is the proprietor, the head guy here.
Yeah.
And I knew that you existed because when we talked to Joe and Ashley, they said that in addition to their fitness programs, which are very unique in and of themselves,
very true,
which made it even more unique, is that they had you that was tucked away in a little bit of a shared space. So that's really very cool and very unique.
It is very unique, yeah.
But your technical address, I guess, is 1833 George Avenue, and the website is thrivesportsandspine.com. I guess, you are a doctor of chiropractic. Chiropractic.
Yeah. Chiropractic. Yeah.
All these big words. Once you get more syllables, I get a little bit confused.
Right.
But this is a chiropractic office. But you're also kind of a physical therapy office as well.
Yeah. So I do a combination of what I call conservative physical medicine, which is I combine passive care, which people think of traditionally as like chiropractic adjustments, with myofascial work, so soft tissue work, and exercises. So I blend the two worlds of both passive and active care together. So I don't strictly just do one or the other, but I try and combine what we know of to be the best of both worlds into one treatment option.
Interesting. Well, then I guess that begs the question, then who are you treating? When we talked to Joe and Ashley at Maxed Out Fitness, they said that they had customers from 12-15 to 112-15.
Yeah. And I honestly am similar to that. I treat a lot of young athletes. Just saw a kid the other day who is an 8-year-old soccer player. I just saw a 13-year-old golfer, but I've seen 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds, 80-year-olds and up. So my demographic is pretty diverse.
And I'm just looking at the name, Thrive Sport and Spine. I mean, obviously spine is a huge thing. It's an important part of our
body. Sure.
It's somewhat critical.
Yeah.
I mean, and is that where, I guess all chiropractic medicine really sort of center around the spine?
A lot of it is focused around the spine, but I tell patients I don't just treat the spine. So I treat literally any joint that's in the body. So I will treat ankles and elbows and knees and shoulders and your TMJ and literally any joint that's in the body. I will do muscle work around that area, potentially adjust that area, and then teach you exercises that can help reinforce what I did in the office.
You just mentioned about muscle work and exercises and stuff like that. So, muscle work is, if, I'm going to say that I've had surgery and I've had 2 on my knees at some point where I've torn my quadricep.
Yep.
And my knee is atrophied. I don't know if that's the correct word, but I've lost all the muscle and I have to rebuild my muscle.
Yep.
Is that what muscle work is considered to you?
Yeah. So some of the muscle work that I'm referring to is like the hands-on myofascial work that people would think of like sort of an equate to a massage.
Okay.
I tend to do more of a massage that is more therapeutic, clinical, very sort of problem focused rather than just like full body, like Swedish massage. I don't do that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But then something like atrophy, with your knee, that is one of those things where the strength and stability exercises would come into play, and I would walk you through how to do that process.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I remember when I was going through PT on these ones, they had me, one of the things was like whether he get out of it was to walk on like a little balance beam and a couple inches off the ground. I couldn't do this.
Yeah. Even pre-op, right? Even pre-op, I couldn't do this. Yeah. Yeah. And some of those things, balance work, we call them proprioceptive exercises. Those things are really crucial for post-op knees. But I would I blend that world of physical therapy with chiropractic essentially. And the sports part, and I don't know if Joe and Ashley had talked to you about this, but I'm the team chiropractor for the Annapolis Blues here in town.
I did see that on your website.
Yeah. I've dealt with sports for a number of years, but I've been with the Blues now for 3 seasons, and that aspect of my practice is it's just fun. Honestly, it's so much fun to be part of the organization. It's a really good group of folks over
Well,
there.
the Annapolis Blues have really just, I don't want to say they came out of nowhere, but they came onto the scene and just exploded it.
Exploded.
And,
Exploded.
you know, I sit there and I love to hear that they've got 8,000 and 9,000 people watching these, you know, what, half a dozen home games they've got over a season.
Yeah.
And I remember when the Bayhawks, which was the minor league lacrosse team, was here. I mean, you know, there were some nights there was like 60.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if they had 2,500, that was a huge night. So,
yeah.
And we're getting way off topic.
That's okay. That's
what
all right.
I think was really interesting with the Blues is that we thought that, you know, we've got this growing Hispanic population here in the area. You would think that that would be the embracing, you know, but it's not, typically not. I mean, the entire community has really jumped on board with these guys.
Yeah.
And girls now this year.
Yeah. I was going to say guys and girls now, right? Yeah. I think whoever looked at Annapolis as an area realized how popular soccer as a sport is around here. Because, I mean, you start to look at just Annapolis and Baltimore and even Southern Maryland, how many different soccer clubs exist around this area. It's a massive sport. And the fact that we have access to something like Navy Stadium just sets us apart completely, because when we go on the road with the team, the fields we're playing at are like private high school fields. It's not Navy Stadium.
Right.
It would be the equivalent of us having our home game at like Indian Creek or you know, Spalding or something like that. Yeah. It would be a private independent school that we're hosting games at, not Navy Stadium where it can hold, you know,
40,000.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So
goals. Goals. 40,000. See if we can fill this.
See if we can get there. Yeah. Have you been to a match?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're a lot of fun.
They're a blast.
Do you have a relationship here with Maxed Out Fitness? I mean, other than sharing space?
Sharing space. I see there's a lot of crossover between clients, patients. So there is a lot of, and I just did it 20 minutes before you walked in. Ashley flagged me down. She was like, "Hey, doc, can you check out his knee? He tweaked his knee doing something. Any chance you can take a quick look at it?" So I jumped out into the gym, evaluated his knee quick, had a conversation with him about best next steps to take, and that was it. Occasionally, those people will then be like, "Hey, I want to come see you. How do we set that up?" And we have that whole conversation. But I get a lot of referrals from them, but I also send them a lot of patients too, because
that's awesome.
Yeah, when I get patients to a level that they can perform in the gym, here's a great place to go.
Right. It's right out the door.
Yeah. Right out the door. And if I can get you out of pain, get you mobile, start building the strength and stability aspect, and then we can transition you to some of the like what I consider high level one-on-one personal training that they offer, then I'll try and do that.
You know, it seems to me that this is just such a natural marriage between chiropractic and physical therapy.
It really is.
And I'm surprised that we're not hearing more of it.
I think there's a couple problems with that. There's the historical traditional aspect of chiropractors where all they do is adjust, and you spend maybe 90 seconds to 15 minutes with them. My follow-up sessions, I schedule on 30 minutes. So I spend 20 to 30 minutes with you on a normal follow-up session. I don't just take 90 seconds, do every same adjustment to every patient, and then send you on your way. So it's a bit of a mental switch to go from that historical traditional chiropractors that just do what I call rack 'em crack 'em adjustments and practices to this sort of, I don't want to say modern, but a little bit more of a evidence-based scientific approach where we combine these things.
You know, I'm seeing that a lot more frequently in just general practices. I know I had a dentist that was actually right up the road here a long time. He's retired now, but it was just so quick. It was come in, okay, fine. And then, you know, the hygienist took care of the rest and everything else. Now I've got a new dentist out in West Annapolis. And I mean, he's there for the questions and the answers and the explanations and everything else. My GP right down the road on Forest Drive at Evolve, again, the same thing. I mean, it's not just, you know, it's so discouraging as a patient to come in and have, you know, some weight coat come in and go, okay, looks pretty good.
Yep.
and off they go. And, here's your bill for $100 or
Right.
whatever
Exactly.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I try and really take what I do seriously, in the sense of, I want to be a clinician and I want to help manage your case. I don't want to just simply be a place you come in, get adjusted, and walk out. Right. So I want to be able to have conversations with patients about that.
When do I need to come see you?
So,
I mean, I know we had an appointment here to talk about this
this
morning, but from a medical point of view.
Most patients come in to see me when they're in pain. Most patients that first start to see me come in when they're in pain. I would say the second most common reason is they're doing something in their lives that they can't figure out why it's causing a problem for them. If it's clicking in their shoulder, or they turn their head a certain way and they feel or hear something, right? So it's something that someone's doing in their life day in, day out, or why they're carrying their baby on their hip and their low back is always feeling off or uneven or whatever. So it's usually either pain or some sort of like biomechanical dysfunction, if you will, that they're noticing.
Okay. So I mean, if you're feeling a little bit off, obviously physiologically there's some, you sit there, you can get an evaluation.
Absolutely. Yeah. To see if there's asymmetry somewhere, to see if you have a muscle imbalance, to see if you have a joint that's not as mobile as it should be, or sometimes joints are too mobile in certain areas. So, yeah.
I've got a friend that has Ehlers-Danlos.
Yep.
And he's in an awful lot of pain.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And I know, and I noticed deep in the bowels of my iPhone, it tells me whether I'm walking, when I go out walking for a walking exercise, how balanced I am, I guess. Am I favoring the left foot or the right foot or something like that? Do you find that this technology that's come out, that's now available, like in our watches and our phones and stuff like that, helpful? Or is that sort of a false sense of security? I mean, I know this sits there and says, here's your heartbeat. I can tell you if I've got AFib, defib, whatever.
Yeah.
And it says, but we're not telling you whether you're having a heart attack. Of course, that's the lawyer.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the legal team saying we don't want to be responsible for that, right? I think the wearables, right? This technology that we have nowadays can be helpful with giving us a snapshot into someone's life. But I also have seen wearables create some anxiety around some issues for patients, where they tend to overthink and overanalyze, and then kind of cling to, I don't want to say a diagnosis, but cling to an issue maybe with that. So there's good and bad to the wearables.
I guess that's sort of like I've got a cough, I better go to WebMD and go into your doctor and say, I've got this disease that affects 1 in 3 people every year.
Yeah. Right.
And it's me.
Right? Yeah. It's such a, and if you start to Google anything, you're like, oh gosh, I have this terribly uncurable rare disease or disorder. And 9 times out of 10, you don't. You don't.
I mean, what types of ailments? I mean, we talked about if you're in pain or something like that. I mean, what types of ailments? I mean, you said like a neck pop. I mean, if all of a sudden, okay, I'm sick, I'm over 60. So, I mean, I get up in the morning and my ankles creep.
Yeah.
When I get up in the and it feels kind of good, but it's
a bit of a release. Yeah. So the types of conditions that I treat, essentially. Yeah. We could start top to bottom. We can look at tension headaches. We can look at neck pain. We can look at rotator cuff or tendonitis issues in your shoulder. Carpal tunnel in your wrist. We can look at, obviously low back pain, sciatica, disc herniations. We talked about knees already. Runner's knee is something I see a lot. I see a lot of like endurance athletes. So people that have runner's knee or patellar tracking issues in their knee, Achilles tendonitis, plantar fasciitis, a lot of I just went top to bottom,
And you also mentioned a number of different ailments there. And when I hear those words, I tend to think surgery.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've always been of the opinion that surgery is always like the absolute last resort for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would much rather deal with A, without medication.
Sure.
And then B, with, certainly without surgery.
Yeah. And that's the approach that I take, is how do we go from the least invasive treatment to the most invasive? And in my mind, most invasive would be surgery. So if we can do all the conservative care that we can do, and essentially explore all the options and do everything that we can to try to prevent you from surgery, that's ideal. Doesn't always happen. There are people that need surgeries from time to time, and it just is what it is, right? But you should try and exhaust all conservative options before getting into the realm of surgery. And sometimes that means taking medications. Sometimes that means I refer people for joint injections in their back or epidurals or something. But again, that's where that case manager piece comes in, that I just actually have a conversation with patients about, because I have the time to do it. And this is the practice style that I want to maintain and keep.
Okay, so the progression of something like that, I mean, as you're trying to figure out what the problem is, what the source of the problem is, would be to manually work with a joint, a muscle, or whatever it may be, to see if we can do something to cause some relief.
Yep.
Next choice would be like, okay, well, maybe we need to give you a couple of pills of steroids or something like that may be able to do that along with this.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you said injections possibly.
Yeah. And obviously nowadays there's a whole host of injections. We're talking about spinal injections, various forms of that. But now we have things like, in your knees, right? You can have hyaluronic acid. You can have just steroid injections. They have these gel injections now with your knees. They can do stem cells or PRP injections.
Really?
There's a lot of different options now. And so it's not just, okay, well, I failed, so now this is what you do. Depending on the patient, that's where we have to sort of manage that and go, all right, well, for you and your situation, if you have any comorbidities that pop up that we need to be aware of, if you have diabetes or hypertension or something else, Ehlers-Danlos, that's a big one, right? I see a lot of patients with Ehlers-Danlos, but that in and of itself causes a whole host of systemic issues that we need to be aware of before we just go take a steroid, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I love your attitude that let's fix it at the lowest possible denominator. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah. The least invasive. Yeah.
And
least invasive to most invasive.
And move up there. And I think, do most medical doctors and surgeons agree with that for the most part?
That's a loaded question. I feel like the high quality good ones do. Okay. So I have some relationships with some really good surgeons, and I like them because...
All right, name names. Who are the surgeons that you like? I'm not going to ask you who you hate, but who are the good ones that are?
So right now I'm thinking of a guy named Dr. Rob Rosenbaum. He's a neurosurgeon. He's a former Navy guy, actually. Phenomenal, and I love him because if you were to talk to him about surgery, he became known as the surgeon that doesn't operate in the Navy.
Okay.
And I love that because that's how it should be. So he would operate, if you asked him, probably 3 out of 10 patients he operates on. That's a phenomenal number, in my opinion, because that means 70% of patients, he is saying, go try conservative care, do acupuncture, try physical therapy, do an injection, do all these other things before I get in there and physically cut you. That's fantastic. That's what I want to see.
That's awesome.
So those types of surgeons are out there. I would say they're probably fewer than most, but they are out there, and those are the types of people I like to work with.
Well, and certainly the ailment. I mean, I can come in with a stiff neck.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can come in here, and you can probably work with me and figure out what it is and get me the relief.
Right.
I certainly can go over to AAMC and probably find some spine doctor that is. And I'm not dissing on AAMC, but I mean, I can probably find some spine doctor that immediately is going to go right into okay, hey, lay down. We'll get an anesthesiologist here. We'll do, and they know that, if we cut this and move this and tie that, it'll fix it.
Sure.
But without the benefit of trying something that was,
correct.
And
then on top of that, you have to look at, most likely you're probably still going to need conservative care post-op too, right? Like whether it's chiropractic care, physical therapy, acupuncture, something massage therapy, you're probably going to need conservative care even post-op as well. So it's not like surgery is just a boom, done, we've fixed the structural issue. Yeah, you may have had a knee replacement or whatever, right? And you've fixed that degenerative knee. That doesn't mean you don't have a whole host of other kinetic issues up and down the chain, biomechanic, compensation elsewhere.
That's awesome. How'd you get involved with the blues? Want ad? Craigslist?
No, definitely not. It's all about who you know, right? So my business partner, when we started this practice a few years ago, knew one of the owners in the ownership group at the Blues. And my business partner had been the chiropractor for the Chicago Fire, the MLS team, for like 17 years. So he was very well into the professional soccer world as a chiropractor. And so him and I had some connections. And then with my experience and background dealing with so many college students, being a professor for so many years, because I taught in the chiropractic school starting in 2014 all the way through 2021. Most of the blues players are college students.
Right.
The vast majority of them are. So him and I kind of came in there together and started working with them, and it's just been awesome ever since.
Very cool. Well, you said you've got a partner here. I mean, this looks like a pretty small office. Is this where you only work here in the locker room at the Blues?
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a location here in Annapolis at Max Out Fitness. I also have a location in Baltimore County, pretty far north in Baltimore County. Actually, it's north of Cockeysville and north of Hunt Valley.
Okay.
Off of 83. So
almost southern Pennsylvania.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretty much. And I see quite a few people from Pennsylvania as well. My business partner, unfortunately, passed away about 1.5 years into this venture. So it's been just me taking the reins and kind of running with it.
Well, you talked about that you were teaching for a while and teaching chiropractic and stuff like that. I mean, how did you get into this? Was this like a kid dream for you?
It really wasn't. I always knew I wanted to help people. That was pretty much the kid dream of mine. I wanted to help people. And so I kind of went down the path of healthcare and had the intention of becoming a physical therapist. Honestly, that was my goal when I went to college, was I wanted to be a physical therapist.
And, I was surprised at one point when I learned that, I mean, physical therapy was always just sort of a practice that it wasn't a degree, it wasn't a doctoral type of thing. And now they've got a doctor of physical therapy.
Yeah.
Doctor of chiropractic, was that always a thing?
Always.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. It's always been a doctoral degree. Obviously, chiropractic, PT, a lot of the sort of like allied health professionals, as we're referred to, are state regulated. So depending on what state you're in determines your scope of practice. So like chiropractors can't do the same thing here in Maryland that they can do in Illinois.
Okay.
So there's depending on the state you're in, different rules and scopes of practice and law that you have to follow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how did this all come through? I mean, you said you wanted to be a PT.
Yeah, I wanted to be a PT.
Did you go to school for PT?
So I went to pre-PT school, essentially.
Pre-PT school?
Yeah, exactly. So I got an undergrad in health science. It was like it was essentially geared towards people interested in physical therapy school. And I shadowed now my wife, I shadowed her chiropractor at the time. That is who I was referring to, my business partner.
Mm-hmm.
So I met him 20 some years ago, shadowed him, and I was like, this is awesome. This is what I want to do. So I went to the very same school he went to in Illinois, and sort of the rest is history. I graduated there in 2013. I ran the cadaver lab while I was there in school. I was the anatomy fellow while I was in school there. And so I ran the cadaver lab for 2 years, did special dissections, taught classes on the side, that kind of thing. And then started actually teaching there as an adjunct in 2014, and then transitioned to a full-time professor role somewhere in that mix too. And then taught in that role until 2021 when I moved to Annapolis.
Sort of an odd, maybe sort of a macabre question. You said that you worked with the cadaver lab, and that's cutting apart dead people.
Yep.
I'd imagine as a chiropractor, pure chiropractor, you're not getting involved into the innards of most people.
We absolutely are, though.
I mean, was the cadaver lab beneficial to your practice? I mean, I've got to imagine it probably
hugely beneficial. So in chiropractic school, we had a class. The class that I taught was called Spine and Extremities Anatomy. That is what I taught. So it was the entire spine, and then it was upper extremity and lower extremity. Then we had an entire class dedicated to head and neck anatomy. So literally just this, including the brain. Then we had an entire class that was called visceral anatomy, and it was chest cavity, thorax, and then abdominal and pelvic anatomy. So we got into literally the full body within the first 2-3 years of school.
What are the most common ailments that you're seeing here? I mean, are they
probably low back pain, neck pain are probably the most common.
Are they a result of an athletic injury or of an overexertion, or is it just a
repetitive use injury? I would say is probably the most common cause. So someone that does something day in and day out repetitively that is causing inflammation, irritation to an area, and then having some sort of compensation based.
Okay, and that could be that
could be sitting too long at the desk, and then having having a commute to DC on top of it, right? Because you're sitting in the car now for another hour and a half or whatever, right? So it could be something as simple as that. It could be something as repetitive as picking your 18-month-old up off the floor or whatever and carrying them around the house,
or working in a factory, lifting the boxes and taking them off the assembly line.
Repetitive issues. Now, I do see sports injuries, like I mentioned, kids. I just had that 13-year-old golfer. I was treating him for right knee pain, and it was because he didn't plant correctly on his back leg, and when he went to drive the ball, he tweaked his right knee. And so it's stuff like that and then his mom's like, well, what do I do with him? Do I take him to a pediatrician? Do I take him to an ortho? No, come in and let me take a look at him.
Let's send him to a golf pro to help him.
Yeah. Or and we did actually talk about that. We did talk about, hey, dude, I think you need a hitting coach here. Like to go work with a golf pro on your hitting, because he's on a golf team. So if he's serious, he should do that.
Are there any exercises? I mean, you're talking about repetitive activities. I mean, I guess be aware of the repetition that you're doing is probably the easiest thing to avoid you.
Yes, correct. And that is probably one of the most common reoccurring conversations I have with patients, is getting them to be thoughtful and mindful about what they're doing day in and day out. So a lot of times when I start asking probing questions, does this hurt? Does that hurt? When did it start? Does it hurt worse in the morning? Does it hurt worse at night? All of those things leads us down the path of trying to figure this out and understand what's going on. And most often it ends up leading the patient to, hey, you know what? I saw you last week. This is what I'm actually doing throughout my week. And after seeing you, it made me think about, this is the activity. And now I've got that connection, that brain body connection of like, this is what's happening with me, which helps us as a team, meaning me and the patient, figure it out and then treat it and help them get some relief out of that too, and help them to be mindful about what they're doing as they move into the next week of life or whatever.
And then just if you're able to identify that, okay, say, oh yeah, well, it was because I gardened a lot last week or something like that. Yeah. Maybe I need to garden less or garden differently, or even maybe break that up.
Yeah, I was gonna say break it up is a great one. Don't go out there for 4 hours if you can do it in hour stints, right? Sit on a stool or figure out a way to kneel or position yourself differently if you can. So modifying some activities like that generally leads me down a path of getting the patient to feel better in and of itself. And then I can also do the treatment here. But if I treat somebody and then don't discuss anything that they do as they walk out the door to reinforce the treatment I've done in here, then what am I helping them with? I'm just putting a Band-Aid on something and sending them on their way. I want them to be somewhat...
You kiss the boo-boo.
Yeah, exactly. And to a certain extent, there's benefit to what I do hands-on. I'm not taking that away. But if you don't help the patient understand how they can reinforce what they do in their own lives and help them understand that they can take some responsibility for their own health, then what are we doing?
Yeah. What activities are we doing as humans, stupid humans, that will guarantee that we'll see you, that we'll have to come here to see you?
Yeah. That's a great question. And honestly, the best answer I can give is honestly probably just life. Whatever we decide to do in our lives, whether it's you have 4 kids at home or you have no kids at home and you decide to run marathons. Honestly, it's whatever you decide to do in your life that regardless has a potential. So if you travel a lot and you sit on planes or sleep in different beds and use different pillows, that could potentially cause some irritation or inflammation somewhere that we have to process. So it totally depends.
What would you be doing if you weren't doing this? Physical therapy?
Probably, I don't know.
Or what would you like to do if you weren't doing this?
What would I like to do if I wasn't doing this? That's an interesting question.
Running Amazon.
No. I still lean towards I'd want to help people in some way. So I feel like I'd probably would have ended up in like law enforcement or firefighter or somewhere in that realm of helping people, right?
Uh-huh.
I don't know why. That's just like built into me.
Interesting. What drove you here to Annapolis?
I was actually recruited by a clinic here in Annapolis to start a chiropractic residency program, which was the first of its kind. Chiropractors don't traditionally have residency programs like you think of in the traditional sense of like a medical doctor.
Right.
And so residency programs in the chiropractic world they're not new, but their expansion has grown in popularity recently, mainly because of the VA. The VA healthcare system has now incorporated chiropractors directly into their network, into the care, and the VA now has a 1-year chiropractic residency program that you can apply to, and they have select locations throughout the country that you can apply to, and it's a year program. And I was actually recruited here to Annapolis by a multidisciplinary practice owner who wanted a chiropractic residency program first ever in a private clinic setting. So I came out here with my background of teaching and with my background of all the clinical care I've done over the years to combine that and create that and start that. So we started that. We hired our first resident, and then unfortunately the owner of that practice got very ill and essentially shut the practice down. So everything kind of dissolved from there.
And here we are. A residency basically is more practice.
Yes. There's a reason they call it practicing medicine.
Yeah. But I mean, okay, you get the book smart.
Yep.
With a little bit of practice.
Correct.
And then you got a lot of practice as a resident.
Correct.
And then you're on your own, and you're
and I do feel that if we as chiropractors as a profession want to elevate our status beyond just all I do is crack backs all day, a residency program is an excellent way to do that. So that way we can get somewhat closer to the level of a medical doctor, our counterparts.
Well, there's so much that's interconnected within the bodies and everything else. And I mean, obviously you're dealing with the exoskeleton is more so than the
internal organs and stuff,
and everything else there. And certainly there's a need for doctors and everything else. But I think everybody can kind of agree, let's do this without drugs, without surgery, let's see that we can do that. I mean, perhaps we can't. Perhaps I'm going to have to be on a lifetime of, painkillers or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just my lot in life. But I think we owe it to our bodies, ourselves, and everything else to really try it down at the
100% agree. Yeah.
North Baltimore County.
Yeah.
You've got a location. You've got one right here, Thrive Sports and Spine. It's at 1833 George Avenue. Shares a space with Maxed Out Fitness, and it's the tall brick building with the storage units on it.
Yep.
And it's the building or the unit that's right on the corner of George and Chinkopin Round Road. So you see it on both entrances there. Both businesses are great businesses. They're good community partners, always doing something good for the community. And Erik Korzen, I want to thank you so much for your time. Thanks for your information, and congratulations on this and on the Blues. Any other? I mean, the Blues had the big announcement last year about the girl team coming on.
Mm-hmm.
Any other inside scoop on the Blues yet?
I don't have any other inside information. This off season, they tend to sort of build on things and then get ready to release them as we get closer to springtime.
Well, I know they're pretty excited about moving into their new offices.
They do have new headquarters. I have a feeling that there will be some sort of announcement made after the first of the year, and we'll see what that is. I'm not sure. I've heard some rumors about some things. So
speculation, rumor around town is that they may be moving to a different division, more toward a pro.
Well, we did that this past year. Yeah, we moved up and I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to move up beyond that as well.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. The other thing I would not be surprised to hear is if they created essentially an Annapolis Blues Academy, meaning they would take younger athletes, so maybe high school age or even potentially younger, and create their own academy that is a filtering system into the Blues itself.
For them, as well as also to help probably the local schools that may be interested in doing it. Interesting.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if we heard some sort of academy news.
Have you gotten involved with any other local teams? I mean, we've got the Bowie Bay Sox, Chesapeake Bay Sox, which is the minor league baseball team.
I have not been involved with them, no.
You've got the Maryland Black Bears, which is the hockey team.
The hockey team.
Odenton,
yep.
And I think there's a couple others that are around.
Yeah, I have not gotten directly involved with any of them. Obviously, indirectly, I'm treating all these college players from all over the place. So, I've UMBC players and Georgetown players, and all of those guys.
Fantastic. Well, I will let you get back to work, cracking and cracking.
Yeah. Thank you for your time, John.
But Dr. Erik Korzen, you want to check it out, thrivesportsandspine.com. And I imagine, your hours here, are they normal hours, or can they, if somebody just wanted to talk with you,
they can call my phone number, 443-949-5026. You can also go to the website, thrivesportsandspine.com, and click on schedule an appointment. That'll take you to my online booking site, and you can book yourself for appointments there as well.
Sounds pretty easy. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.